Montgomery. Well, they're not going to get him. Ty Montgomery puts an exclamation point on the win for Stanford. 96-yard touchdown return.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Week 8 preview of the Pac-12 Conference, along with the UCLA Hall of Famer J.J. Stokes. Roxy Bernstein with you. Glad you're with us for another edition. Before we look ahead to the great scheduled games we have for you this week, let's take a look back at Week 7. J.J., Andrew Luck, Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Week. Basically, pick any week, and he could be up for consideration, but throws for 336 yards, a big road win for Stanford at Washington State. 3 more touchdowns for maybe the Heisman favorite. What did you see from Stanford at Washington State, Andrew Luck?
You know, Andrew Luck, as usual, model of consistency. He came out, he spread the ball around, first of all, and that's something that is a quality of an outstanding quarterback. More importantly, he gets the ball to his tight ends, and you saw that last week. Tight ends having touchdown after touchdown. I don't think Coach David Shaw has any worries when it comes to this Stanford team.
Well, also last week, in a huge non-conference win for the league, JJ, as Utah went cross-country, took on Pitt out of the Big East, shut them down. Derek Shelby gets Defensive Player of the Week honors for the league, and their defense was sensational against Pitt.
You know, Pitt has an outstanding offense, and that Utah defense really stood up, only allowing 120 total yards. But the impressive thing to me was that they had 6 sacks on quarterback Sunseri. So, I mean, that defense came together in a hostile situation out in Pitt, and were able to win the game.
Well, let's shift our focus to the week ahead, and it all starts again on a Thursday night primetime game in the desert. Big Pac-12 South matchup as UCLA travels to Arizona. It's the debut of interim head coach, former defensive coordinator for the Wildcats, Tim Kish, takes over for Mike Stoops. UCLA, they're hanging around in this Pac-12 South race, JJ. They're just a half game behind Arizona State. This is a huge game for the Bruins. They're in the Pac-12 South race.
Yeah, the Bruins are in the Pac-12 South race. Here's what they need to do to make it happen, though. Kevin Prince, I think that's where it starts for them. He's a guy that came back in as a starter due to Richard Breho's broken leg. Can he make the proper decisions down the field and in the running game to make things happen offensively for them? And defensively, can UCLA stand up against that vaunted pass by Nick Foles in that Arizona offense?
That vaunted pass by Foles, he's second in the country in passing yards, the Arizona senior quarterback. Now, the Wildcats are having their struggles, but Nick Foles is having a brilliant season so far. What do you see from him, JJ, that really separates him from a lot of the quarterbacks in college football?
You know, when you look at him back to pass, sitting in the pocket, he doesn't seem to get rattled by a lot of things. He steps up in the pocket, he moves his feet well, and he keeps his eyes down the field in order to spot the open receiver. And I think those are qualities that make this offense really outstanding.
Well, the big matchup in the conference this week is number 5 Stanford puts the nation's longest winning streak on the line. 14 in a row, hosting 22nd-ranked Washington. The Huskies have scored at least 30 points in every game so far this year. Keith Price at quarterback has been brilliant for Washington. 21 touchdown passes, great receivers. What have you seen, JJ, from this Husky offense?
You know, they've come alive under Steve Sarkisian, and that's amazing. It's as though they're starting to understand what Steve wants from them. He has 4 touchdown passes to 4 different receivers. The running game is hitting with Chris Polk. I mean, this team is running on all cylinders right now, and they're facing the best team, according to the polls, in the Pac-12 right now. So this is going to be an outstanding game this week.
And Stanford's defense only giving up 11 points a game. And, oh, yeah, their offense is averaging over 45 a contest. Andrew Luck, Heisman frontrunner, 18 touchdowns. And with Washington, you see the receivers. Yeah, Austin Seferian-Jenkins has emerged as a stud at tight end. But you look at Stanford, it's not necessarily about the receivers. It's the tight ends, and they have like 37 tight ends they throw at teams.
And that's the amazing thing. When you hear about a passing game that Stanford has, ultimately you think of that diva, that guy, that loudmouth that wants the ball and is always
that J.J. Stokes?
No, not that J.J. Stokes, but that guy that just wants the ball. And in this case, it's Ertz, it's Fleener, it's Tuilolo. These guys are making plays right up the middle, and they're making big plays for this Stanford offense.
Well, the other Pac-12 team that ranks in the top 10, number 9 Oregon, puts their 15-game conference winning streak on the line. They travel to the Buffs in Colorado. Is Colorado looking for their first Pac-12 win? Oregon coming off that huge win, JJ, against Arizona State. This past Saturday night, they didn't have LaMichael James, but they didn't seem to miss a beat as the other guys that you talked about and highlighted last week really stepped up for the Ducks.
The running game is as strong as ever. They averaged 315 yards a game in the rush, and it started with Kenyon Barner and DeAnthony Thomas. Those two guys stepped it up in place of LaMichael James, and they did an excellent job. They saw the creases, they ran through the creases, and in open space, I mean, it's hard to tackle these guys. They're just too swift.
Well, also taking place on Saturday, two Pac-12 teams looking for their first conference win. Both had success in the non-conference as Utah visits Cal at AT&T Park, 4 o'clock Saturday. And for the Bears, they have the leading receiver in the country, Keenan Allen, the sophomore, standout, averaging close to 140 yards a game receiving. But in this matchup, it's two very good defenses, and JJ, two of the top defenses, not only in the Pac-12, but in college football.
Yeah, this is going to be an extremely tough matchup because you look at Utah and what they did a week ago, sacking the quarterback 6 times. That puts Zach Maynard under pressure. And then on the flip side, you have the Cal defense, number 2 in the conference, likewise against the run. So John White's going to have his tough time running the football. From last week, he had 171 yards. It's going to be tough this week for him.
And one non-conference tilt for the league this weekend, a rivalry game as USC goes back to South Bend, Indiana. The Golden Shillelagh on the line, USC Notre Dame, as the Trojans have won 13 straight road non-conference games going to South Bend. They're 5-1. Matt Barkley playing well, and this USC team, a lot of people were writing them off. Well, they don't have much to play for, but they certainly have been rising to the occasion every week and came out with a good performance against Cal last Thursday night.
They definitely did. They're going to have their hands full against this Fighting Irish team. They're balanced offensively, but that presents a problem to USC. Their defense has stepped up. We saw a week ago against Cal, they had 5 turnovers. That secondary is going to have to play a huge role for this USC defense. You had Deion Bailey, you have TJ McDonald. Those 2 safeties are going to have to stop Michael Floyd in order to be successful next week.
And the final tilt we have for you, Oregon State, Washington State. Technically a neutral site game. CenturyLink Field in Seattle, conference game. Washington State, the host, and the Cougars trying to bounce back from a tough setback to Stanford last Saturday night.
Yeah, it is going to be tough, but when you look at Washington State, what problems do they present for Oregon State? They throw the ball well. And I like the matchup between Jordan Poyer and Marquise Wilson. I think that's going to be a determining factor in the outcome of this game. Last week, Marquise Wilson didn't have a good game. Unfortunately, Washington State lost. And then you look at Jordan Poyer, a guy that returned a 51-yard interception, returned for a touchdown. He has a punt return for a touchdown. I think this guy can be influential on Oregon State's defense.
Well, that'll do it for a Week 8 preview of Pac-12 football. Keep in mind, we're halfway there, halfway to the inaugural championship game of the Pac-12 Conference, December 2nd, to be at a site yet to be determined who hosts the Pac-12 championship game. Reminder, you can catch me doing the Cal-Utah game coming up Saturday, 4 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Mountain on both Comcast Sportsnet Bay Area and KJZZ TV in Salt Lake City, Utah. So for JJ Stokes, Roxy Bernstein, thanking you for joining us for a Week 8 preview of Pac-12 football.